Picture this. A stadium packed with 3,000 people. Every seat taken. Every camera out. And there, in the very front row, two parents who had written off their own daughter, sitting perfectly still, faces completely drained of color, staring at the stage like they'd just seen a ghost. Because they had. They came to watch their other daughter graduate. They had no idea I was even there. And they definitely didn't know that the name about to be called, the valedictorian, the Whitfield scholar, the one about to speak in front of everyone they knew, was mine. My name is Frances Townsend. I'm 22 years old. And this is the story of how I built a life. From the wreckage of being told I wasn't worth one. I was a failed investment. But here's what my father didn't realize. What none of them realized. The moment he said those words, he didn't close a door on me. He lit a fire. And 4 years later, he would watch it burn. In front of 3,000 people. But to understand what happened at graduation, you need to understand the years that came before it. Because the favoritism wasn't new. It had been woven into my childhood, like a pattern everyone pretended not to see. When we turned 16, Victoria got a brand new Honda Civic. Red bow on top, gleaming in the driveway. I got her old laptop. Cracked screen. A battery that lasted 40 minutes. We can't afford 2 cars, Mom had said apologetically. But somehow they could afford Victoria's ski trips, her designer prom dress, her summer abroad in Spain. Family vacations were their own kind of cruel. Victoria always had her own hotel room. I slept on pull-out couches. In hallways. Once, and I need you to really hear this, in a room the resort called a cozy nook. It was a closet. In every family photo, Victoria was center frame, glowing. I was at the edge. Sometimes half cut off like an afterthought. Someone almost cropped out entirely. When I finally asked my mother about it, I was 17. I was desperate. She just sighed. Sweetheart, you're imagining things. We love you both the same. Actions don't lie, though. Words can be anything. Actions tell the truth. A few months before the college decision, I found my mother's phone unlocked on the kitchen counter. A text thread with Aunt Linda was open. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. Poor Frances, my mother had written. But Harold's right. She doesn't stand out. We have to be practical. I put the phone down, walked to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and I made a decision I told absolutely no one about. Not because I wanted revenge. Not yet. Because I needed to prove something to myself. I opened the cracked laptop, the one with the dying battery, and I typed 4 words into the search bar. Full scholarships for independent students. The results loaded slowly. But what I found in that search would change the entire trajectory of my life. At 2 in the morning, sitting on my bedroom floor, with a notebook and a calculator, I did the math. Eastbrook State. $25,000 per year. For years. $100,000. Parents' contribution, 0. My savings from summer jobs, $2,300. The gap was almost laughable. If I couldn't close it, I had exactly 3 paths. Drop out before I even started. Take on 6 figures of debt that would follow me for decades. Or go part-time, stretch a 4-year degree into 7 or 8, while working full-time. Every single path led to the same destination. Becoming exactly what my father said I was. The failure. The bad investment. The twin who didn't make it. I could already hear the Thanksgiving conversations. Victoria is thriving at Whitmore. Frances? Oh, she's still figuring things out. But this was never only about proving them wrong. That would have been too small a reason. This was about proving myself right. I scrolled through scholarship databases until my eyes burned. Most required essays, recommendations, proof of financial need. Some were scams. Others had deadlines already passed. Then I found something. Eastbrook had a merit scholarship for first generation and independent students. Full tuition coverage. Living stipend included. The catch? 5 students per year. Nationwide competition. I saved the link and kept scrolling. And that's when I found the name. That would eventually change everything. The Whitfield Scholarship. Full ride. $10,000 annually for living expenses. Awarded to 20 students across the entire country. I laughed out loud in the dark. 20 students nationwide. What chance did I have? But I bookmarked it anyway, because something in me refused to let it go. I had two choices. Accept the life my parents had already designed for me, or design my own. I chose the second. And to do that, I needed a plan. That night, I built one. I filled an entire notebook that summer. Every single page was a calculation. Every margin covered in contingencies. Job 1. Barista at the Morning Grind, a campus cafe. Shift. 5 to 8 a.m. Monthly income. $800. Job 2. Cleaning crew for the residence halls, weekends only. $400 a month. Job 3. Teaching assistant for the economics department. If I could land it, another $300. Total, $1,500 a month. $18,000 a year. Still $7,000 short of tuition. That gap would have to come from merit-based scholarships. The kind you earn, not the kind you're handed. I found the cheapest housing within walking distance of campus. A tiny room shared with 4 other students. $300 a month, utilities included. No parking. No AC. No privacy. It would have to do. My schedule locked into something ruthless. 5 a.m., cafe shift. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., classes. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., studying, working, TA duties. 11 p.m., sleep. 4 to 5 hours a night. For 4 years. The week before I left for college, Victoria posted photos from her Cancun trip. Sunset beaches, margaritas, laughter, filters, and captions about beautiful life. I was packing a thrift store comforter into a second-hand suitcase. Our lives were already splitting into 2 separate worlds, and we hadn't even started yet. But here's what kept me going. Every single night before sleep, I whispered the same words to myself. This is the price of freedom. Freedom from their expectations. Freedom from their judgment. Freedom from needing their approval. I didn't know then how right I was. And I didn't know that somewhere on the Eastbrook campus, there was a professor who would see something in me that my own parents never could. Freshman year. Thanksgiving. I sat alone in my tiny rented room, phone pressed to my ear, listening to the sounds of home on the other end. Laughter in the background. Dishes clinking. The warm, chaotic noise of a family dinner I was not a part of. Hello, Francis. My mother's voice was distant, distracted. Hi, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, yes, happy Thanksgiving, honey. How are you? I'm okay. Is Dad there? Can I talk to him? A pause. Then his voice muffled, but I heard it clearly.
Tell her I'm busy.
My mother came back on the line, voice bright and hollow. Your father's just in the middle of something. Victoria was telling the funniest story. It's fine, Mom. Are you eating enough? Do you need anything? I looked around my room. Instant ramen on the desk. A second-hand blanket. A textbook borrowed from the library. Because I couldn't afford to buy it.
No, Mom.
I don't need anything. Okay, well. We love you. Love you too. I hung up. Then I opened Facebook. The first thing in my feed was a photo. Victoria had just posted.
Mom. Dad.
Victoria. Candles lit. Turkey gleaming. The caption read, "Thankful for my amazing family."
I zoomed in.
3 place settings. 3 chairs. Not 4. They hadn't even set a place for me. Not a spare chair. Not an empty plate. Nothing. I sat there for a long time, staring at that image. And something shifted inside me. The ache I'd carried for years. That desperate longing for their love and approval. It didn't disappear. It hollowed out. Where the pain used to be, there was suddenly something colder, quieter.
Clarity.
And strangely, that clarity gave me something the pain never had. Direction. Second semester. Freshman year. Microeconomics 101. Dr. Margaret Smith. Legendary at Eastbrook. 30 years of teaching. Published in every major journal. Terrifying reputation. Students whispered she hadn't given an A in 5 years. I sat in the third row, took meticulous notes, turned in my first essay, expecting a B- at best. The paper came back. 2 letters at the top. A plus. Below the grade, in red ink. See me after class. My heart dropped. What did I do wrong? After the lecture, I approached her desk. Dr. Smith was packing her bag. Silver hair pulled back. Reading glasses on her nose. Frances Townsend? Yes, ma'am.
Sit down.
I sat. She looked at me over her glasses and said something I had absolutely not prepared for. This essay is one of the best pieces of undergraduate writing I've seen in 20 years. Where did you study before this? Nowhere special, I said. Public high school. Nothing advanced. And your family? Academics? I hesitated. And then the truth came out before I could stop it. My family doesn't support my education, financially or otherwise. Dr. Smith set down her pen. Tell me more, she said. So I did. For the first time in my life, I told someone the whole story. The favoritism, the rejection, the 3 jobs, the 4 hours of sleep, all of it. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that changed my path forever. Have you heard of the Whitfield Scholarship? I nodded slowly. I've seen it, but it's impossible. 20 students nationwide, she said. Full ride, living stipend, and the recipients at partner schools deliver the commencement address at graduation. She leaned forward across her desk. Frances, you have potential. Extraordinary potential. But potential means nothing if no one sees it. She looked at me steadily. Let me help you be seen. Those 5 words. Let me help you be seen. I hadn't realized how long I'd been invisible until someone offered to turn on the lights. The next 2 years blurred into a relentless rhythm. Wake at 4 a.m.
Coffee shop by 5.
Classes by 9. Library until midnight.
Sleep. Repeat.
I missed every party, every football game, every late-night pizza run. While other students were building memories, I was building a GPA. 4.0, 6 semesters straight. There were moments I nearly broke. Once, I fainted during a cafe shift. Exhaustion, the doctor said. Dehydration. I was back at work the next morning. Another time I sat in Rebecca's car. She'd lent it to me for a job interview. And I just cried. Not because anything specific had happened, just because everything had happened. All at once. For years without stopping. But I kept going. Junior year. Dr. Smith called me into her office. I'm nominating you for the Whitfield. I stared at her. You're serious? 10 essays, she said. 3 rounds of interviews. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. She paused. But you've already survived harder. The application consumed 3 months of my life. Essays on resilience, leadership, vision. Phone interviews with panels of professors. Background checks. Reference letters. Somewhere in the middle of it, Victoria texted me for the first time in months. Mom says you don't come home for Christmas anymore. That's kind of sad, TBH. I read the message. Then I put my phone face down and went back to my essay. The truth was, I couldn't afford a plane ticket. But even if I could, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. That Christmas, I sat alone in my rented room, with a cup of instant noodles and a tiny paper Christmas tree Rebecca had made me. No family, no presents, no performances, no pretending. It was somehow the most peaceful holiday I'd ever had. The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in September. Senior year. Subject: Whitfield Foundation. Final round notification. My hands were shaking so badly. I could barely scroll. Dear Miss Townsend, congratulations. Out of 200 applicants, you have been selected as one of 50 finalists for the Whitfield Scholarship. 50 finalists, 20 winners. An interview at the New York headquarters. A 40% chance if all things were equal. But things were never equal. The interview was scheduled for Friday in New York, 800 miles away. I checked my bank account. $847. A last-minute flight, $400 minimum, a hotel, the rest. And rent was due in 2 weeks. I was about to close the laptop when Rebecca knocked on my door. "Frankie, you look like you've seen a ghost." I showed her the email. She screamed. Literally screamed. "You're going," she said. End of discussion. Beck, I can't afford. Bus ticket. $53. Leaves Thursday night, arrives Friday morning. I'll lend you the money. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. She grabbed my shoulders. "Frankie, this is your shot. You don't get another one." So I took the bus. 8 hours overnight. Arriving in Manhattan at 5 a.m. with a stiff neck and a blazer from the thrift store. The interview waiting room was full of polished candidates, designer bags, parents hovering nearby. Easy, inherited confidence. I looked down at my secondhand outfit, my scuffed shoes. I don't belong here, I thought. Then I remembered Dr. Smith's words. You don't need to belong. You need to show them you deserve to. 2 weeks after the interview, I was walking to my morning shift when my phone buzzed. Subject: Whitfield Scholarship Decision. I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. A cyclist swerved around me, cursing. I didn't hear him. I opened the email. "Dear Miss Townsend, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a Whitfield Scholar for the class of 2025. I read it 3 times, then a 4th, and then I sat down on the curb, and I fell apart. Not quiet tears, ugly, heaving sobs that made strangers cross the street. 3 years of exhaustion, loneliness, and sheer relentless determination poured out of me right there, on the sidewalk outside the morning grind. A Whitfield Scholar, full tuition, $10,000 a year for living expenses, and the right to transfer to any partner university in their network. That night, Dr. Smith called personally. "Francis, I just got the notification. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for everything." "There's something else," she said. "The Whitfield allows you to transfer to a partner school for your final year. Whitmore University is on the list." Whitmore, Victoria's school. "If you transfer," Dr. Smith continued, "you'd graduate with their top honors. And the Whitfield Scholar delivers the commencement speech." My breath caught. "Francis," she said quietly, "you'd be valedictorian. You'd speak at graduation in front of everyone." I thought about my parents, sitting in that audience for Victoria's big day, completely unaware I was there. "I'm not doing this for revenge," I said quietly. "I know," said Dr. Smith. "I'm doing it because Whitmore has the better program for my career. I know that too." A pause. Then her voice, just barely, with a smile in it. "But if they happen to see you shine, that's just a bonus." I made my decision that night, and I told no one in my family. 3 weeks into my final semester at Whitmore, it happened. I was in the library, 3rd floor, tucked into a corner corral with my constitutional law textbook. And then I heard a voice that sent ice through my veins. "Oh my God, Francis?" I looked up. Victoria was standing 3 feet away, iced latte in her hand, mouth hanging open. "What are you? How are you?" She couldn't even form a sentence. I closed my book calmly. "Hi, Victoria. You go here?"
"Since when?"
"Mom and Dad didn't say." "Mom and Dad don't know." She blinked.
"What do you mean they don't know?"
"Exactly what I said. They don't know I'm here." She set her coffee down, still staring at me like I had materialized from thin air. "But how?" "They're not, I mean, how did you?" "I paid for it myself. I transferred on a scholarship." The word hung between us. Victoria's expression moved through confusion, then disbelief, and then something I wasn't expecting, something that looked almost like shame. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I looked at her. My twin sister. The one who had gotten everything I was denied. The one who had never, not once in 4 years, asked how I was surviving. "Did you ever ask?" She opened her mouth, closed it. I gathered my books. "I need to get to class." "Francis, wait." She grabbed my arm. "Do you hate us?" I looked at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. "No," I said quietly. "You can't hate people you've stopped caring about." I pulled my arm free and walked away. That night my phone lit up with missed calls.
Mom.
Dad. Victoria, again. I silenced everyone. Whatever was coming, it would happen on my terms, not theirs. Victoria called them immediately. I know because she told me later. When everything was over, she'd barely gotten through the door of her apartment. When she told them, "She's here," Victoria had said. "Frances is at Whitmore. She's been here since September." According to Victoria, the silence on the other end lasted a full 10 seconds. Then my father's voice. "That's impossible. She doesn't have the money." She said, "Scholarship." "What scholarship?" "She's not scholarship material. Dad, I saw her in the library." I'll handle this." My father called me the next morning. First time he had dialed my number in 3 years. "Frances, we need to talk." "About what?" "Victoria says you're at Whitmore. You transferred without telling us. I didn't think you'd care."
A pause. "Of course I care."
"You're my daughter." "Am I?" The words came out flat. Not bitter. Just factual. "You told me I wasn't worth the investment. Remember that?" Silence. Frances sighed. "That was 4 years ago. In the living room. You said I wasn't special. That there was no return on investment with me. Do you remember that?" "I don't remember saying." "I do." More silence. Then, "We should discuss this in person. At graduation. We're coming for Victoria's ceremony." "I know. I'll see you there, Dad." I hung up. He didn't call back. That night I sat in my apartment, the one I had paid for myself, with money I had earned, and I thought about that conversation. He didn't remember. Or he chose not to. Either way, he had never really seen me. Not once. But in 3 months, he would. And when that moment came, it wouldn't be because I forced him to look. It would be because he couldn't look away. The weeks before graduation were a strange kind of quiet. I knew they were coming. Mom, Dad, Victoria. The perfect family unit. Arriving on campus to celebrate Victoria's big day. They'd booked a hotel, planned a dinner, ordered flowers for her. And still, they didn't know the full picture. Victoria had told them I was at Whitmore. But she didn't know about the Whitfield. She didn't know about the valedictorian honor. She didn't know I'd been asked to deliver the commencement address. Dr. Smith called to check in a few days before. She was making the trip to watch. "Do you want me to notify your family about the speech?" "No, Dr. Smith. I want them to hear it when everyone else does." She was quiet for a moment. "This isn't about making them feel bad." "No," I said, honestly. "It's about telling my truth. If they happen to be in the audience, that's their business." Rebecca drove up for the ceremony. She helped me pick out a dress. The first new piece of clothing I'd bought in 2 years. That didn't come from a thrift store. Navy blue.
Simple.
Elegant.
"You look like a CEO," she said.
I feel like I'm going to throw up. Same thing, probably. The night before graduation, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves, not exactly. I kept asking myself one question. What would I feel when I saw them? Would the old pain come flooding back? Would I want them to hurt the way I'd hurt? I stared at the ceiling until 3 in the morning, searching for an honest answer. What I found surprised me. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to suffer. I just wanted to be free. And tomorrow, one way or another, I would be. Hey, I want to pause here for a second. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, if you know what it feels like to work twice as hard for half the recognition, type same in the comments. I want to see how many of us have lived this story. And if this is landing for you, hit that like button. It genuinely helps. Now back to graduation morning. May 17th. Bright sun. Perfect blue sky. The kind of weather that felt almost cruel in its beauty. Whitmore's stadium seated 3,000 people. By 9 a.m., it was nearly full. Families streaming through the gates. Flowers and balloons everywhere. That buzzing, electric feeling of a milestone being reached. I arrived early. Slipped in through the faculty entrance. My regalia was different from the other graduates. Standard black gown, yes. But across my shoulders, the gold sash of valedictorian. Pinned to my chest, the bronze Whitfield Scholar medallion. Catching the morning light, I took my seat in the VIP section at the front. reserved for honors students. 4 speakers. 20 feet away in the general graduate section, Victoria was taking selfies with her friends. She hadn't seen me yet. And in the front row of the audience, dead center, best seats in the house, sat my parents, Dad in his navy suit, Mom in a cream-colored dress, a massive bouquet of roses in her lap. Between them sat an empty chair. For coats. For purses. Not for me. Never for me. Dad was adjusting the lens on his camera, angling it toward Victoria's section. Mom was waving at someone across the aisle. They looked so happy. So proud. They had absolutely no idea. The university president approached the podium. The crowd hushed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Whitmore University's Class of 2025 commencement ceremony. Applause. Cheers. The usual joy. I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap. In a few minutes they would call my name, and everything would change. I looked once more at my parents, expectant faces, cameras ready, waiting for their daughter's shining moment. I thought, soon you will finally see me. The ceremony moved in waves. Welcome addresses, honorary degrees, the slow, graceful pageantry of it all. Then the university president returned to the podium. And now it is my great honor to introduce this year's valedictorian and Whitfield scholar, a student who has demonstrated extraordinary resilience, academic excellence, and strength of character. In the front row, my mother leaned over and whispered to my father. He nodded, lifting his camera, aiming it at Victoria. Please welcome Frances Townsend. For one suspended, impossible moment, nothing happened. Then I stood. 3,000 pairs of eyes turned. I walked toward the podium, heels on stage floor, gold sash swaying, the Whitfield medallion catching the light with every step. And in the front row, I watched my parents' faces transform. My father's hand froze on the camera. My mother's bouquet of roses slipped sideways from her lap. First, confusion. Who is that? Then, recognition. Wait. Is that? Then, shock. It can't be. Then, nothing. Just pale, stricken silence. Victoria's head snapped toward the stage. Her jaw dropped. I saw her mouth form my name. Frances. I reached the podium, adjusted the microphone. 3,000 people applauded. My parents didn't. They sat frozen, as if someone had pressed pause on their entire world. For the first time in my life, they were looking at me, not at Victoria, not past me, at me. I let the applause fade, and then I leaned into the microphone. Good morning, everyone. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt, calmer than I had any right to be. For years ago, I was told I wasn't worth the investment. In the front row, my mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's camera hung useless at his side. I am not here because someone believed in me. My voice moved across the stadium, steady as a heartbeat. I was told I didn't have what it takes. I was told to expect less from myself, because others expected less from me. So I learned to expect more. I spoke about the 3 jobs, the 4 hours of sleep, the instant ramen dinners and secondhand textbooks. I spoke about what it means to build something from nothing, not because you want to prove anyone wrong, but because you need to prove yourself right. I didn't name names. I didn't point fingers. I didn't have to. The greatest gift I received wasn't financial support or encouragement. It was the chance to discover who I am, without anyone else's validation. In the front row, my mother was crying, not the proud, joyful tears of a graduation day. Something raw, something that looked like grief. My father sat motionless, staring at the podium like he was looking at a stranger. Maybe he was. To anyone who has ever been told, "You're not enough," I paused. Let the silence settle over 3,000 people. You are. You always have been. I looked out at the graduates who had struggled, at the parents who had sacrificed, at the friends who had believed, and yes, at my own family in the front row, sitting like statues in the seats that had cost them nothing. I am not here because someone believed in me. I am here because I learned to believe in myself. The applause was thunderous. People rose to their feet. A standing ovation. 3,000 strangers cheering. For a girl they had never met. I stepped back from the podium. As I descended the stage, James Whitfield III was waiting at the bottom. But he wasn't the only one. The reception buzzed with champagne and congratulations. I was shaking hands with the dean when I saw them approaching. My parents, moving through the crowd, like they were wading through water. My father reached me first. His voice was hoarse. "Francis, why didn't you tell us?" I accepted a glass of sparkling water from a passing server. Took a slow sip. "Did you ever ask?" He opened his mouth.
Closed it.
My mother arrived beside him. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Baby, I'm so sorry. We didn't know." "You knew." I kept my voice even.
You chose not to see.
"There's a difference." "That's not fair," my father started. "Fair?" The word came out calm. Not sharp. Not bitter. Just clean. "You told me I wasn't worth investing in. You spent $250,000 on Victoria. And told me to figure it out. That's what happened." My mother reached for me. I stepped back. "Francis, please."
I'm not angry, I said.
And I meant it. The anger had burned away years ago, replaced by something cleaner, quieter. "But I'm not the same person who left your house 4 years ago." My father's jaw tightened. "I made mistakes. I said things I shouldn't have. You said what you believed." I met his eyes. "You were right about one thing, though. I wasn't worth the investment. Not to you. But I was worth every sacrifice I made for myself." He flinched like I'd struck him. James Whitfield III appeared at my elbow, extending his hand. "Miss Townsend, brilliant speech. The foundation is proud to have you." I shook his hand. The founder of one of the nation's most prestigious scholarships, treating their worthless daughter like a treasure. I watched it land.
The full weight of what they'd missed.
What they'd thrown away. After Mr. Whitfield moved on, I turned back to my parents. They looked smaller somehow. Diminished. "I'm not going to pretend everything is fine," I said. "Because it isn't. Francis, please, can we just talk as a family?" "We are talking. I mean really talk. Come home for the summer. Let us."
No.
The word was firm but not harsh. "I have a job in New York. I start in 2 weeks. I won't be coming home." My father stepped forward. "You're cutting us off."
Just like that.
"I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. What do you want from us?" His voice cracked. For the first time in my entire life, I watched my father look lost. "Tell me what you want, and I'll do it." I considered the question. Really considered it. "I don't want anything from you anymore. That's the point." I took a breath. "But if you want to talk, really talk, you can call me." I might answer. I might not. It depends on whether you're calling to apologize or to make yourself feel better. My mother was crying again. "We love you, Francis. We've always loved you." "Maybe," I said. "But love isn't just words. It's choices. And you made yours." Victoria appeared at the edge of our circle, hovering, uncertain. "Francis," she hesitated. "Congratulations." "Thank you." No tearful reunion. No manufactured moment. But no cruelty either. "I'll call you sometime," I told her. "If you want." She nodded, eyes wet. "I'd like that." And I turned and walked away. Not running. Not escaping. Just moving forward. Dr. Smith was waiting by the exit. A quiet smile on her face. "You did well." "I'm free," I told her. And, for the first time in my life, I meant every word. The ripple started before my parents even left campus. At the reception, I watched it happen. Watched the slow realization spread through the crowd of family, friends, and acquaintances. Mrs. Patterson from the country club approached my mother. "Diane, I didn't know Francis went to Whitmore. Whitfield Scholar. You must be so proud." My mother's smile looked like it hurt.
"Yes.
We're very proud. How on earth did you keep it a secret? If my daughter won that, I'd have it on billboards." My mother didn't have an answer. Over the following weeks, the questions multiplied. My father's business partners reached out. "Saw your daughter's speech online. Incredible story. You must have really pushed her to excel." He couldn't tell them the truth. That he'd done the exact opposite. Victoria called me 3 days after graduation.
Mom hasn't stopped crying, she said.
Dad barely talks. He just sits there. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? I thought about it honestly. I don't want them to suffer. But I'm not responsible for their feelings. Silence on the line. Francis, I'm sorry. I should have asked. I should have paid attention. I was so wrapped up in my own life. I had no idea. I knew. But I also knew you had no reason to notice. I paused. Neither of us chose the way they raised us. But we get to choose what happens next. More silence. Then, do you hate me?
No.
I meant it. I don't have the energy to hate anyone. I just want to move forward. Can we, maybe, get coffee sometime? Start over? I thought about my sister. The girl who'd gotten everything. And still ended up empty-handed in a different way. Yeah, I said. I'd really like that. 2 months after graduation, I stood in my new apartment in Manhattan. It was small. A studio, really. One window overlooking a brick wall. A kitchen the size of a closet. But it was mine. I'd signed the lease. With money from my first paycheck. At Morrison & Associates. One of the top financial consulting firms in the city. Entry-level position. Long hours. Steep learning curve. I had never been happier. Dr. Smith called on a Saturday morning. How's the big city treating you?
Exhausting.
Exciting. Everything they warned me about. She laughed.
That sounds about right.
I'm proud of you, Francis. I hope you know that. I do. Thank you. For everything. Rebecca visited the following weekend. She walked into my studio, looked around, and declared it exactly as small and depressing as expected. Then she hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. You did it, Frankie. You actually did it. One evening, I found a letter in my mailbox. Handwritten. 3 pages. My mother's looping script. Dear Francis, I don't expect you to forgive us. I'm not sure I would if I were you. She wrote about regret. About the 1,000 small ways she had failed me. About watching me on that stage. And realizing she'd been looking at a stranger. Who is also her daughter. I know I can't undo what happened. But I want you to know. I see you now. I see who you've become. And I am so sorry I didn't see you sooner. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully. And placed it in my desk drawer. I didn't reply. Not yet. Not because I was punishing her. But because I needed time. To figure out what I wanted to say. If anything. For once in my life. The choice was entirely mine. Okay, we are almost at the end. But I have to ask you something first. If you were in my shoes, would you forgive your parents? Comment yes if you would forgive them. And oh if you wouldn't. Or maybe, if like me, you need more time. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the moment. We have so many more stories like this one coming. All right, here's how it all ended. I used to believe that love was something you earned. That if I was smart enough, good enough, successful enough, my parents would finally see me. That their approval was a prize waiting at the end of some invisible race I'd been running my whole life. For years of struggle taught me something different. You cannot make someone love you the right way. You cannot earn what should have been given freely. And you cannot spend your whole life waiting for people to notice your worth. At some point, you have to notice it yourself. I look at my life now. My apartment.
My job.
My friends who chose me. And I realize something. I built this. Every single piece of it. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. My parents' rejection didn't break me.
It rebuilt me.
The girl who sat in that living room 4 years ago, desperate for her father's approval. She doesn't exist anymore. In her place is a woman who knows exactly what she's worth. And doesn't need anyone else to confirm it. Some nights I still think about them. About the family dinners I wasn't invited to. The Christmas photos without my face. The $250,000 spent on my sister. While I ate ramen in a rented room. It still hurts sometimes. I don't think that kind of hurt ever stops completely. But the hurt doesn't drive me anymore. I've learned something that took years to understand. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about releasing your own grip on the pain. I'm not there yet. Not fully. But I'm working on it. And for the first time in my life, I'm working on it for me. Not to make anyone comfortable. Not to keep the peace. Just for me. 6 months after graduation, my phone rang.
Dad.
I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello, Francis. His voice sounded different. Older. Tired in a way I'd never heard before. Thank you for picking up. I wasn't sure you would. Silence. I deserve that. I waited. I've been thinking every day since graduation. Trying to find the right words. He paused. I keep coming up empty. Then just say what's true. Another long pause. Then, I was wrong. Not just about the money. About everything. The way I treated you. The things I said. The years I didn't call.
Didn't ask. Didn't. His voice cracked.
I have no excuse. I was your father. And I failed you. I listened to him breathe on the other end of the line. I hear you, I said finally. That's all. What did you expect? I don't know. I thought maybe you'd tell me how to fix this. It's not my job to tell you how to fix what you broke. More silence. You're right. He sounded older than I'd ever heard him. You're absolutely right. But I took a breath. If you want to try, I'm willing to let you. You are? I'm not promising anything. No family dinners. No pretending everything is fine. But if you want to have a real conversation, honest, no deflecting, I'll listen. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. He laughed. A small, broken sound. You've always been the strong one, Francis. I was just too blind to see it.
Yeah, I said.
You were. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing profound. Just two people trying to find common ground. Across years of wreckage. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a start. It's been 2 years since graduation. I'm still in New York. Still at Morrison and Associates. Though I've been promoted twice. I'm starting my MBA this fall. Paid for by my company. The girl who ate ramen and slept 4 hours a night. She'd barely recognize me now. But I haven't forgotten her. I carry her with me every single day. Victoria and I meet for coffee once a month. It's awkward sometimes. We're learning to be sisters as adults, which is strange, because we never really were as kids. But she's trying.
I can see that now.
I'm sorry I didn't see it, she told me at our last coffee. All those years, I was so focused on what I was getting. I never asked what you weren't. I know. How do you not hate me for that? Because you didn't create the system. You just benefited from it. My parents came to visit last month. First time in New York. It was uncomfortable. Stilted. Dad spent half the time apologizing. Mom spent the other half crying. But they came. They showed up at my door. In my city. In the life I built without them. That meant something. I'm not ready to call us a family again. That word carries too much weight. Too much history. But we're something. Working on something. Last month I wrote a check to Eastbrook State's scholarship fund. $10,000. Anonymous. For students without family financial support. Rebecca cried when I told her. Frankie, you're literally changing someone's life. Someone changed mine. I thought about Dr. Smith. About the coffee shop shifts at dawn. About the night I bookmarked the Whitfield scholarship, never believing I could actually win it. About how far I've come. And about how far I still want to go. If you're watching this, and something in my story resonated with you, if you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told you weren't enough by the people who are supposed to love you most, I want you to hear this. They were wrong. They were always wrong. Your worth is not determined by who sees it. It is not a number on a check, or a seat at a table, or a place in a photograph. Your worth exists, whether or not a single person on this planet acknowledges it. I spent 18 years of my life waiting for my parents to notice me. I spent 4 more proving I didn't need them to. And, do you know what I finally learned? The approval I was chasing. It was never going to fill the hole inside me. Only I could do that. Some of you are estranged from your families. Some of you are still fighting for scraps of attention. Some of you are just beginning to realize that the love you're receiving isn't the love you deserve. Wherever you are in that journey, it's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to decide that you matter more than keeping the peace. And it's okay to forgive, but only when you're ready, not a moment before. You don't need your parents, your siblings, or anyone else to confirm what you already know. You are enough. You always have been. Take a look in the mirror and say it out loud. I am enough. That is the first step. The rest, that's up to you. But I believe in you, because if a girl who was told she wasn't worth the investment can stand on a stage in front of 3,000 people as a Whitfield scholar, you can do anything. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment. What part resonated with you the most? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss our next story. There are more stories just like this one waiting for you in the description below.